IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we discuss the story of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners. Hi guys, I'm your host Saif, and our guest traveler today is Saakshi from the blog My Travel Recitals. Saakshi is a travel blogger and photographer who enjoys traveling, exploring, observing, all while being true to her instincts. She's also a strong advocate of giving back to the society and enjoys taking up volunteering opportunities whenever she can. So sit back and enjoy as we find out where Saakshi is taking us to today. So with that introduction, I'd like to welcome Saakshi from the blog My Travel Recitals. Saakshi, thank you so much for being a part of the Musafir Stories and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Saif. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Saakshi, and we're very, very glad to have you. We look forward to this wonderful conversation. But before we get into the specifics, the introduction about you that I've given is quite concise. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about you and when your journey as a traveler, as a travel blogger began?
So, Saif, my briefest introduction, which I generally give to people, is that I'm a travel writer and photographer at My Travel Recitals. Okay. And I take immense pride in mentioning the briefest bio to people. To divulge a little more detail about myself. Mm-hmm. So, I quit my regular corporate job some 6 months back to get into travel blogging and full-time traveling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And how does it feel, Saakshi? Because you say it's just been about 6 months. So is the grass really greener on the other side?
I would say there are pros and cons of both the sides. We so get used to getting this fat paycheck by the end of the month, which is not the case in the case of travel blogging. Sure. So there are pros and cons to both the sides.
Absolutely. I think that's the way most things in life are.
Absolutely.
I guess that saying that the grass is always greener on the other side, it came into being for a reason. So, but anyway, we wish you all the best in this new phase of your life. And we look forward to finding out more about you during the course of our conversation. So,
thank you so much.
So, Saakshi, what we usually do when we have a guest traveler come over is we request them to take us and our listeners on a journey to a destination and give us a good insight into that trip, into that itinerary that they did, covering that destination, everything from like how to get there, the places they saw, people they met, the kind of food they sampled, everything from A to Z about that destination. So with that in mind, where do you want to take us and our listeners to today?
So, Saif, before mentioning the location, I recall the small quote which says, the traveler sees what he sees, the tourist sees what he has come to see. So I did not realize the importance of this quote until I had seen this island called Majuli Island, which is located in Assam in Brahmaputra River. So apparently it is world's biggest river island, basically, which is located in Brahmaputra River in Assam. So this place is something which is to be experienced. And this is not a place for me. It is something to be an experience. So I am taking you all to Majuli Island today.
Excellent. We're excited and even more so given the unique nature of this place in itself, right? Give us a little bit more about the place in itself. When you say a river island, what exactly is it? How exactly did it come into being?
So it is basically, it came into being some centuries ago when, Brahmaputra, so it is surrounded by Brahmaputra in south and a tributary of it called Kherkutia Xuti in north, which is again joined by a river called Subansiri. Wow. So these names are a little difficult to pronounce, but then that's how it came into being. And, it is 300 kilometers away from Guwahati, but quite conveniently located as, from a ghat from Jorhat. There is this ghat called Nemati ghat from where the ferries ply to this island. So although it is an offbeat location, remotely located, but reaching there is not a problem at all.
Okay. So essentially it looks like it has been formed over the years due to the river Brahmaputra changing its course, right?
Absolutely.
That's how it's been formed.
In fact, name Majuli comes from, Majuli means that it's a land in the middle of two parallel rivers.
I see.
So that's how, it defines its name and its existence.
Yeah, it's really, I think, one of the marvels of the nature, right? Man can build whatever he wants to, but things like this, it's all nature's forces that come up with these things.
The good part and the bad part both is that these things get built by nature, but they're also lost by nature. I mean to say that, this island is getting disappeared in sense that it was spread over an area of 880 square kilometers in the beginning of 20th century. But now the area has only reduced to around 350 square kilometers, which means it has already reduced by 50%.
Yeah.
So nature has a part in originating things and destroying things, of course.
So Saakshi, now that you've given us a brief intro about the place and how it came into being, how does one get to Majuli?
So, in the month of January, I was traveling with this company called Koyeli Tours and Travels, who had invited a few bloggers there for a familiarization trip. So, the itinerary involved a lot of places in Assam, and Majuli Island was one of it. So we were in Kaziranga the night before, and we had taken a safari tour in Kaziranga National Park, which was really amazing. As it's not so ordinary to spot rhinos.
Sure.
After Kaziranga, the next thing on itinerary was Majuli Island, which was around 120 kilometers drive. And it took around 2 hours for us to reach there approximately. And the drive, I can begin to tell you enough that the drive was so scenic. It was through lush tea gardens of Assam, then the urban city of Jorhat, which was still asleep because we started very early morning.
So it looks like Jorhat is the most accessible point from other major cities and everything, right?
Yeah, to reach Majuli, Jorhat is the place where one is supposed to reach to get onto the ferries towards Majuli.
Yeah. Carry on.
Yeah. So once we reached Nemati Ghat, we had to, so there was this cab which was taking us from Kaziranga to Majuli. So all the cabs, bicycles, scooters, bikes, livestock, everything is, transported to the ferry. And then we get this chance to hop onto the ferry, which is like a really rugged, it's an experience in itself to get onto that ferry and go to Majuli, because it's a real rugged ferry with, bare minimum facilities inside. So once we hopped onto the ferry, it takes us to Majuli Island. It takes around an hour to reach to the other side of the island. Yeah, that's about reaching to the place. But the great part of the experience of ferry is that nobody sits inside the deck, as in there's this lower ground when there's a place to sit, but people usually don't sit and hop onto the upper floor of it to, enjoy the expanse view of the Brahmaputra River and the greenery and the local lives. Because there are small islands on the way where, people are doing their daily stuff, hanging clothes, living their daily life, which is not so ordinary for people like us who are spending most of our times in cities.
Sure. I'm sure even daily commuters, they wouldn't want to sit inside, and even if they're doing this day in and day out, they still would like to.
Yeah. I mean, given the chance, right? I would hop onto the upper deck of it and just enjoy the view, the entire route.
So you mentioned that you did this in the month of January, right? And is that a good time to go there?
Yeah, so November to April, I would say March, because this time is perfect, not much humidity, perfect weather. It was a little cold also that side. And Kaziranga also can be covered during this while because, after April, it's close by. And then after April, it's not a very good time to spot rhinos in Kaziranga after then. So November to March, I would say, is the perfect time to go to Majuli.
Excellent. Now that you've given us a good intro about the place and how to get there and all of that, in terms of preparation, is there something out of the blue that you need to do, or is this does this place need anything like that?
So you should not eat a lot of food before going to Majuli is what I can Kevin, because the other side, once you get down on the other ghat from where you can go to Majuli, the roads are just not there. It's a very bumpy ride with no roads at all for quite a lot of distance, and then you should not be stomach full because it won't be easy for you to drive on that road.
Right. So once you get off the ferry again, to get around the island, your mode of transportation was like a cab?
Yeah. So because we were given the cab for the entire trip, so we had this convenience of getting into the cab.
Okay. Excellent. So I think we have covered things in terms of preparation and how to get there and all of that. So why don't we dive into the thick of things and start with what you covered on day one?
I was there only for 2 days. So as soon as we hopped off the ferry and got into the car for that bumpy ride, so the scenery entirely changed. From the vast expanse view of Brahmaputra, it was all lush green. So initially it was all sand till a distance. It looked like a sandy beach. And then after that, it was small water bodies on the sides and lush greeneries on the sides. The houses with thatched roofs. And, people just waving their hands, kids running around. So it is completely a village kind of a feel, which we do not see generally. So it was very scenic, very beautiful, very close to nature. So once we got off the ferry and took this road, the first pit stop was a satra. So I'll give a little brief about satra, what satras are. So satras, basically they refer satras to be Hindu monasteries. So the concept of Buddhist monastery and Hindu monasteries are quite similar. So just for the convenience of explaining satras to ordinary people like you and me, they call satras to be Hindu monasteries. So basically the origin of satras dated back around 500 years back. When a Hindu saint called Sri Shankardev came to Majuli for the first time and preached a form of Hinduism called Neo-Vaishnavism. So Vaishnavism is majorly related to worshipping Lord Krishna.
Right. So basically an offshoot of Hinduism, right?
Yeah, of Hinduism majorly. But there are Christian communities staying in Majuli. There are Muslim communities staying in. But the majorly what is preached there is Vaishnavism.
Right.
So now satras are so integral to the society there that they become the cultural center and hub of the society in Majuli. Yeah, so we saw first satra, which is called Dakhin Path Satra, which was built around 500 years back. Yeah, this was the first satra which Sri Shankardev had built there. So it was a typical monastery kind of a feel where we had to take our shoes off. We got inside. There was this Namghar, which is called the main temple, where the entire preachings and pujas happen. So that was at the center, and it was surrounded by a pond. And besides the pond, there were houses for head monks and the younger kids who are turning to be monks.
So basically they reside there, right?
They reside there, they study there. Beside the general education, they are given the teachings of Vaishnavism. So it was beautiful. It was really calm and spiritual inside the satra.
So when you say similarities to the Buddhist monasteries, right? How similar or different are the satras, Saakshi?
Yeah, so I was in McLeodganj a few years back, and that was my first encounter with Buddhism and Buddhist monasteries. So I got to know, and I was volunteering there for English conversation classes in a Tibetan NGO. So there I got to know that in Buddhism there is this tradition of giving away a child of the family to Buddhism. And then that kid has to become a monk. So I found this similarity, this feature of Buddhism very similar to these monasteries which I visited here in Majuli, because here also people are supposed to give one kid of the family to this cause.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, and in the setup also, like in Buddhism also there are hierarchies. There are head monks, and then there are kids. Then there are like little kids who are getting to be monks. So very similar to here, this was the case as well.
And about the architecture, do they look kind of similar?
No, not really. It absolutely looked like a temple with the Assamese touch to the interiors.
Okay.
There were lamps lit. There was yellow and red color clothes tied inside the. So it was a typical temple kind of a structure, architecture inside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Excellent. So it must have been a very different experience from what you had in McLeodganj, even though you say that there are similarities. Given the diversity we have in India, I'm sure you could
So I could not believe it to be a monastery until the guide, after stepping out, he told us that it is a Hindu monastery. So I could not really relate, how can a Hindu be a monastery? Like for Hindus, we refer to the buildings as temples, right?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, how can, a Hindu structure be a monastery? That's when he gave me these similarities, and I could relate to what I had noticed before.
Right. Okay, and then where do you head off to from here?
So the next stop was another satra, which I refer to as mask making satra, because it's a very, very popular art in Majuli,
sure.
Where this community builds masks, produces masks, and there are stages in mask making, some 4 stages which a bamboo goes through in making masks. This satra was all about making masks. So we entered a room in that satra, and it was full of masks, mostly from depicting the stories from Ramayana.
Okay.
There was this person called Mr. Goswami, who is fondly known as mask maker in Majuli, and who also told us that he is a descendant of Sri Shankar Dev. So that was a hard to know fact when he told us.
Very interesting, given that you said he's from like 500 years ago, right?
Yeah, so he told us that he is some generations, I think 5th or 6th generation of Sri Shankar Dev. So the mask making was, so there were kids who were sitting outside that room and making masks. It was absolutely delightful to watch these kids, uninterrupted, unbothered about the visitors, and just busy in their art, and they were refining every bit of it. I also shot a lot of videos. It was quite an experience to watch these people.
I looked at some of your pictures, and they seem to be quite different, right? The masks, they're, I believe, a combination of bamboo and clay and a lot of other materials that goes into making these masks, right?
Yeah, so this guy explained the entire process, but then I cannot recall the entire process right now. But then there was clay, there was bamboo, there was a lot of colors.
Right. I believe a lot of this is organic, like vegetable colors.
Yeah, everything is organic. Yeah. Even the colors were organic. And Mr. Goswami, who explained us about everything, he was so excited because the masks were going to go in the parade, which was about to happen in that Republic Day parade that year. This year.
Very interesting.
That was another wonderful thing which he told us about, and he was extremely, extremely excited about it.
And then, in terms of the mask making culture, I know it's very popular. It is a very popular culture there, right? But is there like a push to kind of keep that culture alive, or is this slowly dwindling from mainstream?
I think looking at those kids, they were so passionate about it. I don't think there was any requirement of any kind of push, because they were so, unbothered about everything. They were just into their passion, it looked like. So,
I think that's very heartwarming and good to hear, because with a lot of these
very heartwarming.
Yeah, because with a lot of these traditional art forms, right, you see that as most of these places that are hubs of these traditional art forms, right, as they go through the phases of development and then slowly urbanization, people tend to move away and pick up new occupations. But in this case, it's really good to know that people are still working to preserve it. That's really nice.
And I'm glad to know that, these people are getting these opportunities to represent themselves at occasions like Republic Day Parade. That's huge for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when these people are getting these opportunities, that's keeping them going.
Excellent. Yeah. So I'm sure this one would have been a really nice experience. And even though it was a satra, like the first one, your first pit stop, this one must have been completely different experience, right?
This does not look like to me a satra at all, but these people call it a satra. So I have to go by the words they use. So yeah. It is called a satra.
Awesome. So after this, what was your next point of interest?
So after this, so it was almost evening by the time we had seen this, and so we retired for the day, and there were some bhavna performances happening in the late night. So this happens particularly in the time of January for few days, for 3-4 days, and it happens very late night, starts around 10:30, 11:30 and lasts for 3 hours or so.
Okay, so just give us a little insight into what these performances are, right? The Bhavna performances you said?
Yeah, so these revolve around Ramayana, depicting Ramayana in various forms.
Right.
And a lot of dance forms happen around it. So, it's basically wearing these masks and posing as Ramayana characters and, performing those characters on stage.
Okay.
Those kind of performances, yeah.
Okay, excellent. And you did mention that you retired for the day, and could you also give us a quick insight into the place you were staying? What was your accommodation?
So we stayed in this very beautiful property, considering the small place called Majuli. This place called Dekasang Resort is run by a local there. Okay. It's a very eco-friendly kind of a resort, and the resort is built so beautifully that it resembles like a Mishing tribe resort. Okay. I'll get to it, to the Mishing tribe details once I start telling you about the second day, what all we did on the second day.
Sure.
But this resort has a very local kind of a feel with absolute convenience and comfort in the rooms.
Okay.
And quite organic in nature. They were growing their own vegetables and things. And the owner was so heartwarming. I mean, if I would go to Majuli again, I'm going to stay back there.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing whenever you get a chance to stay at such properties, right, that are close or that are modeled around the traditional setups, the traditional homes there. I think it adds to that experience as well. I mean, you could go stay there in a 3-star, 5-star hotel, but you just won't be able to kind of replicate that experience, right?
Absolutely. It was so wonderful because this person had put his heart and soul. It was so visible from the resort's feel that it was talking wonders of this person's dedication towards it. So yeah.
We will definitely include links to obviously Saakshi's blog posts and other details as well, but we'll also include links to places she has been, accommodations that she has lived in, so listeners can go and check them out, and if ever they plan a visit to Majuli, they should definitely go and check these options out. Excellent. So how was day 2, Saakshi? Tell us now. Day 1 looks to be like a culturally heavy mix, of the things you did.
Right. So second day was all about relaxation. It was about appreciating nature, bird watching, about canoe rides, about meeting people from the local community called Mishing tribe. My day began with bird watching on the riverside. So this resort is located right on the riverside called Luit.
Okay.
There are a lot of birds, and Majuli is a wonderful, wonderful place for, bird watchers, who are really passionate and enthusiastic about bird watching. So there are a lot of migratory birds, a lot of local birds, kingfishers, a lot of stork eaters, a lot of variety.
Yeah, excellent. And I also believe that even the Siberian crane is one of the species that makes a stop here, right?
Yeah, even we spotted a Siberian crane there.
Awesome. That must have been a great experience.
A wonderful experience. Yeah, we couldn't click a lot of pictures of birds, but it was a wonderful experience. And, bird watching in the early hours is just another level of nature love.
Exactly. So that's one time, I guess, when you don't mind on the sleep, you've given up, right?
Yeah. In such scenic places, you really can't afford to sleep.
Sure.
Yeah, because bird watching is done best in early hours or by sunset.
Yeah, exactly. So how was your itinerary for day 2 looking like? Where were you planned to head off to?
Yeah, so then we went to see this local community called Mishing Tribe.
Right.
So Mishing Tribe is basically a community of scheduled tribe people who have migrated from Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay.
It is basically me plus Yasing, which is, men of worthiness. That's how they've put it as Mishing Tribe.
Okay, that's the etymology behind the name then, Mishing.
Yes. So these people are very simple people, and as they have, migrated from Arunachal Pradesh, there's a peculiar thing about their houses, which I would like to, highlight here.
Yeah, please.
So the houses are at a raised level because of the often occurring floods in this region.
Right.
So that is a peculiar thing about Mishing Tribe houses, and the livestock are kept in the area below the house. Okay, because they can move whenever, but the house cannot be moved. So there is this a little raised kind of a house everywhere. The utensils are very different. Their houses are majorly made of bamboo, wood, these kind of things.
I think this is also one of the unique things about the houses there, right? That most of them are made out of bamboo stilts.
Very little wood used, but majorly bamboo.
Okay.
So a very, very typical Mishing tribe of a tribe kind of a house it was. So we met a lady there.
Okay.
And it was a very emotional conversation with her. She had lost her son back then, and then she was very emotional. But I was amazed by the simplicity of this lady and her uninhibitions of, inviting us to her place and then showing us around, because we were really inquisitive about this house, that how does it work, what rooms do they have, like what all amenities do they keep and everything. So one of the co-travelers knocked on her house, and then she was very, very welcoming, and then she invited us inside, and then gradually she started telling about her story. So it was a very emotional conversation with her.
And in terms of how one gets about the language of communication, how is that? Does Hindi work?
Hindi does not work majorly, but so this co-traveler of ours, she speaks Bengali. She's a Bengali.
Okay.
So she could connect with her on the language front. That was the emotional part of our trip in Majuli, where we could see, how simple people are, that they open up to strangers in few minutes, which people from metropolitans would not. Like, we will think 1,000 times before, revealing our things to anybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the other side, which we have not seen till now. I had not seen this kind of side of people at all, where, they have no prejudices. They are just open to, interactions probably. That was a wonderful experience.
That's so true. Now that you have kind of had a little sample of the locals as well, right? It's a good thing always on your travels to kind of try and interact with the locals there. After having done this, where do you guys head off to?
So first we did a canoe ride in the river in front of the resort, which was again a very beautiful experience.
Okay.
So it was a simple, basic wooden plank kind of a canoe where we hopped on and we went for a ride.
Okay.
So the owner was kind enough to take us for that ride, and we also couldn't stay back because the river looked so lovely by the sunset, and the canoe looked really simple, really, basic kind of a thing. And then who gets to experience all this unless you go and visit such place? That was a must experience.
So you have a little bit of adventure sport added as well in the itinerary.
Yeah, it was absolutely like an icing on the cake. I did not expect it to to do a canoe ride in Majuli Island, which is so offbeat. People hardly get to go there, and then you get to do bird watching, get to do canoe ride. So that was quite an experience.
Awesome. So now that we are at this point, I usually take the opportunity whenever I can to quickly ask about the food as well, since you've been there now for a day and a half.
I will come to food also, Seth, but then there is this one satra which is really close to my heart, and I cannot just let it go. I have to mention this satra, which is called Kamla Bari Satra.
Absolutely. Take it away, please.
So this is a typical satra which I mentioned in the beginning, like the main temple in the center, and then there are houses, small huts or houses of monks around.
Sure.
So there, Koyeli Tours and Travels had arranged a Krishna Bhakti Bhavana performance.
Okay.
So this performance was done by young monks, like real young kids, and they had performed a dance style called Mati Akhora. Okay. So Mati Akhora means that you are touched with ground, as in you have your base on the ground, and then all your moves, your steps, everything is around Mati, is around ground. Mati is ground, right? So yeah, so it was a beautiful performance. The moves, the steps, everything was just so beautiful and so pure. I would say it was so pure that it really touched me because of the simplicity of the actions, and then these kids were so into it that it was an amazing experience. And there was no idol in the temple. They do not do idol worship there. They had kept Bhagavad Gita in the main temple, and to which these kids were praying.
Okay, that's one of a kind also, right? Usually I used to seeing people like dance around an idol or perform around an idol, and here you're saying it was around the Bhagavad Gita or for the Bhagavad Gita, right?
Right. It was really a touching experience for me.
Now I'm really not surprised why Majuli is called the cultural capital of Assam, right? There's so much culture, right from the different tribes there, like the Mishing tribe you mentioned, to the different satras and everything, and the mask making and all of that, which is being preserved and nurtured. So no wonder, no surprises that it's called the cultural capital of Assam.
And the food also is quite typical there. So I tried a lot of variety of fishes. I do not really recall the name of the fishes, but I recall the name of a variety of rice which is called purang apin, which is cooked in a special kind of a leaf.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Majuli grows more than 100 varieties of rice.
Wow.
Yeah, they do. So this was one peculiar kind of rice which I thoroughly enjoyed. There was this rice beer which they called epong.
Yeah, this is also, I think, very popular, right? In general, it's
very
popular in the Northeast, but...
Yes. Yes, it is popular in the Northeast. But what I had tried before in Meghalaya, it was very different from that. It was much better than that. So, yeah.
Okay. Great. I'm sorry I jumped the gun about the food, but looks like you've had a good time with the food as well, sampling the different food that Majuli has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, these people say that they don't eat non-veg. But when we ask them particularly that, do you eat fish? They say, yes, we eat fish. So they do not consider fish as non-veg. So that was another interesting fact about this head monk who was with these kids in the last satra, which I mentioned. So that was quite interesting to know.
Yeah, I think we had this conversation sometime back on another episode as well. India is so diverse and so different places that sometimes in definition of things like vegetarian and non-vegetarian, they change from place to place, right? So it's always best to ask.
Yeah, that was a fun moment where I had a good laugh. Okay, fish is not non-veg.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So what point of the day are we now, Saakshi? Looks like you've covered quite a few places during the day.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering what time of the day it is.
It is the evening when these little kids performed for Bhagavad Gita and for us also.
Okay.
Yeah, after that we would retire for the day, and then next day morning we had to leave for our ferry back.
Okay. Looks like a very wholesome trip, if I have to add. But if I have to ask you about this trip and one memorable moment from this trip, what is that comes up to your mind? If you just had to close your eyes and think about this trip, what is your most memorable moment?
So I think Krishna Bhakti Bhavana performance, that performance really gave me goosebumps.
Okay.
So that is something which I can never forget. Even after, I've recorded everything and everything is there with me, the pictures and everything. But then I can feel it as soon as I close my eyes. And if you'll tell me to think of one thing, that is one thing which I remember from Majuli very closely.
Excellent. Saakshi, you've been a wonderful guest all this while, and you've taken us to places and shown us things in Majuli that are very unique. Majuli in itself is so unique, but again, within this river island, biggest river island in the world, I believe, right?
Yeah, right.
So within this river island, you've shown us so many different colors of Majuli. One would wonder if this is just a little island in Assam, or if you've taken us on a tour of Assam. So thank you so much for that. But if one has to reach you and follow your work, what's the best way of doing that?
So my blog is called My Travel Recitals. It is at www.saakshirajat.com.
Okay.
And I'm on all social media by the name of My Travel Recitals. You can look out for my work, my pictures, my writings on the social media channels as well. And my email ID is saakshirajat@gmail.com. If you need any help in planning your trip to Majuli, I'm always an email away.
Excellent. Saakshi, again, thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking us to this unique destination of sorts, and then giving us a complete insight into the places, right from how this place was formed to its history, its people, the beautiful satras, the mask-making culture, and of course, how can one forget the food, right?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for all this, Saakshi. We look forward to your coming up journeys, and also wish you all the best in your life as a travel blogger. Thank you, Saakshi.
Thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure interacting with you and revisiting my memories of Majuli.
Thank you, Saakshi. That was yet another great episode of the Musafir Stories. If you guys like the show, please subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Audioboom, Savan, Pocket Casts, Castbox, Stitcher, or any other podcasting app available on iOS or Android. Please do leave us a review on iTunes. It goes a long way in the show's discoverability. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We go by the handle The Musafir Stories. Or, if it suits you, you could email us at themusafirstories@gmail.com or visit our website at www.themusafirstories.com for more information. All of these links will be made available in the show notes section of each episode. So here's to more traveling, sharing, and inspiring. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, happy travels and goodbye.